Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, everyone? Am I coming through A-okay? What is up, what is up, what is up? So, let's get this out of the way. This is a rant against all of the nonsense that has been going on in regards to Modulo 23. I want to make that very, very clear. I feel very passionately about this. And I just want to go over it. I know a lot of you guys feel very differently. I know this is a very controversial chapter in the grand scheme of things in the fan base. But if you aren't familiar, I think I did make my opinion pretty blatantly clear on the live stream. But also, I don't know if anybody follows me on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter anymore. But I said this specifically, which is Gege gave everyone a battle shonen and they said he couldn't write. Gege gave everyone a story more focused on writing, and now they say that he ruined the fights. And that's truly how I feel. Now, I haven't gone through any of these replies or anything like that. We're not going to go ahead and do that. Like I said, I really don't use Twitter, but I did want to make my opinion known for the people that were curious. And I actually put together a full grand scale rant power presentation for y'all because I feel like I have a lot to say just in regards to the whole series. So we could definitely go through this. I think it will be important to go through this. I'm gonna try and fix OBS a little bit, so that way I'm not covering too much of it. But I think there's a lot to discuss because I think genuinely, in my honest opinion, I think without being like I might seem a little mean in this stream, and I want you all to know that I love you, I appreciate you. I'm not specifically talking about you. I'm just talking about some of the things that I've seen in the community. So if I say you guys, it's very much a big generalization. But I gotta be real with y'all. I feel like a lot of you guys just don't just be reading this shit through, you know, leaks. I feel like a lot of you guys just don't actually engage with a lot of the material, and maybe that's my fault. Maybe I mean, I go over this stuff for a living, so maybe I just, like, you know, I definitely have like a more like I'm going over this stuff a lot. But again, I think, and I want to make it clear, if you don't like this ending, if you're not a fan of it, you don't like the way that it's going, I don't think that makes you a bad person, and I don't think that makes you stupid. As we will get through in this rant, my issue is with the people that clearly are just here because they saw Yuji come back into the story. They never read a single chapter of anything prior to Modulo, tuned in just for the fights, and now they're angry that the fights didn't go the way that they wanted. Their 4 to 3 chapter, you know, fights and everything like that. And also people that just haven't been engaging with the story whatsoever and are really only in it for like hype and aura moments, but also at the same time are using words like Gege can only write fights, hype, and aura. But at the same time, that's what we'll get into it. I don't want to, you know, preemptively ruin any of the sauce that we'll be getting into today, because this is indeed the great Modulo rant today. Chapter 23 really broke the dam and sent all the water flooding into the village, but I want to make it very clear that there have been cracks from the very beginning. All right, so I may not respond to chat very much, which I do apologize, but I do want to get through this. I may actually even end up clipping this for the main channel, because I think this will be able to like let me get a lot of my thoughts that I've had in regards to just Modulo as a whole, and also just the community that I've seen, because something that a lot of you guys don't really notice, and that's fine because a lot of you guys aren't in the same kind of situation, and I notice it a lot when I make YouTube shorts or when I cover like small little tidbits of information on the Jujutsu Kaisen community, is that a lot of you guys don't really realize how ridiculous this fandom can actually genuinely be sometimes, right? Like, so many people will tell me that, oh, no one would think that, nobody has said that, you're just making content to make content for. But I promise you, if there is a comment or there is genuinely a living, breathing thought about Jujutsu Kaisen that you can even begin to comprehend, if you think it's too stupid for someone to believe, I promise you someone has fucking thought it and commented it in, if not my comment section, another Jujutsu Kaisen creators comment section. I have talked to other creators, this is confirmed. And then again, this is not targeting any of you guys that are in my chat right now, not targeting any of you guys that are watching right now. This is just saying, in the grand scheme of things, remember, Jujutsu Kaisen won the most popular anime manga of the year last year. Millions, billions of people, maybe not billions, maybe saying 1 billion people watch Jujutsu Kaisen might be over, like an over you know, stretch, but yeah. And like Tiberius said, the game show is going to prove my point. We're going to have a fun little Jujutsu Kaisen game show. This is a little bit of promo for that. Well, that will be out in probably the next couple of days or so. And you'll see how crazy some of the comments that we get are. But that being said, I want to make it very clear that this is one of the most mainstream series of all time. And the way that people engage with it, I feel like a lot of people are very young, very immature, and this is their first story, or one of the first stories that they've really heavily tied their entire personalities into. And because of that, when you have theories that have been going on for, especially with the mainline series, stretches of years, and they don't come true, nowadays what ends up happening is, instead of being like, oh damn, that theory didn't come true, nowadays it's, oh, the author fucked up their story because actually I plotted everything out in my head and I had it all figured out. And that doesn't happen all of the time, but you see it in a lot of different pieces of media nowadays. You see it with Attack on Titan specifically, and the anime only enders, or the secret ending that Isayama was for some reason too scared to write, even though he himself has admitted this was the story he wanted to make multiple times. And again, you can not like the ending of Attack on Titan, that's fine. But to make up this entire delusion in your head that there is a real ending that we just didn't get because you mapped it out in your head and you just don't want it to be wrong. I mean, you see it with Stranger Things just recently, to bring it up to even more popular cultural media. Like, that show ended terribly. It's very obvious that it ended terribly, and so many people came together and said, there has to be an additional final episode. There's no way that the writers could do this. They have to be, all of my theories that I've had for 10 years or so have to come true. So there has to be the secret ending. There's no way it could end. And as someone that has been let down by multiple series, multiple times in my life, I'm talking multiple times. I mean, I read Naruto weekly. I read Bleach weekly. I watched Game of Thrones weekly. Like, I have seen shows, fictional media, there's things like Promised Neverland. There are so many things where, like, things that I have loved have been crushed and burned and destroyed. And eventually I feel like a level of maturity is just realizing that sometimes, you know what, I will say endings are hard, especially when you have so much world building. So sometimes it is all about the journey than it is the destination. Now, don't get me wrong, if an ending sucks, you can say an ending sucks, but I feel like people that have been through this know that, like, you know what I mean? Like, there is genuinely something to say about a bad ending. And even though Modulo hasn't ended yet, I don't think we are anywhere near the levels that some of these actual fictional medias could be. And a theory may not come true here or there, which I'll get into later on in the chapter. Which is fine to be upset about. It's okay to not like something, and it's okay to be upset. But what I want to really get into, and which will be our first, chapter of what I get into, is going to perfectly explain what I'm talking about. So let's just get started. That's the introduction right here. The Great Modulo Rant. Welcome. Thank you all so much. Hit your like buttons, throw your roses, throw your, don't throw any tomatoes. There will not be any tomatoes sold at the venue for this specific reason, because I know y'all, I don't trust trust y'all. I know for a fact this is going to be a controversial conversation. So, let's get into it. Table of contents. Quick table of contents. Let me make this camera a little bit smaller. So, we've got about 7. There might be an 8th conclusion. You know, I didn't really add that. But this is our chapters that we will be going through in this presentation. I do not know how long this is going to take. It really could go on for a while here. But our first chapter, which is kind of going to, you know, transition right into what I was previously talking about in the introduction, is the birth of the buzz. And, you know, I've kind of, you know, interestingly named these chapters, but number 2 is Communist Maru versus Maga Tsurugi. Number 3 is The Real Party Happens Off Screen. Chapter 4, Screw the Journey, I Want a Destination. Chapter 5, I Made It the Fuck Up. Chapter 6, Iori, Megami, and the Midichlorians. And then we're gonna end on 7, People do not want peace, they just want justice. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, everyone. Let's get the fuck into it. By the way, we are indeed sponsored by Gamersupps. Let me get that out there real quick. Gamersupps.gg/no-op. Guys, please go ahead and check that out. You can get 10% off your order, or if you're a new customer, get some free samples on me. Use my code anyway. Use that code NOOP. Click the link that's pinned message and use my code to get 10% off your order, or get some free samples if you're a new customer, y'all. Let's get the fuck into it. So, kind of getting into and piggybacking off of what I was talking about earlier, we have the birth of the buzz, we have buzzwords. Gege rushed this ending. Gege can only write fights, aura, and hype. Gege is a bad writer. And this is kind of going exactly what I mean when I say a lot of this stems from immaturity. A lot of this stems from most likely people being young. Because the thing is, these words are being said with no idea what any of them mean at all. If you have ever heard anybody say that this ending feels rushed, it feels like everything is being rushed right now, that's impossible. Literally impossible. Gege and Yuji mapped this entire story out before it even began. That's why they said about 3 volumes is all we're gonna need. And what did they do? They hit 3 volumes. This pretty much entire story has most likely been storyboarded and put together entirely from the very beginning, from start to end. You could argue that there might be small tidbits here or there that they may think of on the week-to-week basis. Not everything may have been plotted out, but the grand outline of the story most likely completed, right? This story focused so heavily on writing, so important to give context to the Sumerian plight, the Sumerians getting forced onto Earth with otherwise they're going to die on their home planet. You have the entire conflict of the curse spirits and Kallions. You have Tsurugi Yuka talking with Cross and Maru. You also have Cross and his hatred and his prior experiences with higher, society, civilizations beating down the ones below them, oppression. You have Gege saying so much in so little amount of time, right? So little amount of time. It's so important to stress that, where it's crazy by chapter 15 when the fights actually do start to kick up and happen, that we have already become fully attached to so many of these characters. We fully understand who all of these characters are as people, with small little modicums of criticism here or there, right? Like, this is like a 25 chapter series. Not every character is going to be fully mapped out. Not every character is going to have a, 10-page essay of a backstory, which I'll be also getting into later. And sometimes some characters are just going to serve their role. You have Yuka Okotsu, who plenty of people right now are very much complaining about. I have seen so many people say that Yuka is one of the best female characters that Gege has written. What in the actual fuck are we talking about, guys? Yuka Okotsu is one of the best female characters that Gege has written. What has Yuka Okotsu done? I could name it on probably about one hand, maybe one or two fingers. She talked with Cross and had a very, very emotional and in-depth discussion with Cross about the nature of the cycle of hatred. She passed out during the fight against the one curse user. We found out she has brain cancer. She summons Maharaga against Deborah. She does have that really, really great moment with thinking about how she would want to be born as the older sister because she felt like she was always doing the older sibling thing for Tsurugi. But genuinely speaking, like, I like Yuka. Yuka's a cool character. I don't think she needed to do anything more. I don't think we needed anything more from Yuka. I think Yuka completely serves her purpose entirely. But to act like Yuka holds a candle whatsoever to any characters from mainline Jujutsu Kaisen that have actually been there for a very, very, very long fucking time. Like, for example, even someone like Yuki Tsukumo, I think, who people constantly complain about that was wasted, I think has more characterization and gave us more spotlight and gave us more highlights than Yuka Okotsu did. And again, it's a 25 chapter series. Yuka Okotsu did exactly what he does. And guys, I love you guys, and I understand the appreciation, but please don't hate on any other creators in the chat. I understand you guys are getting it out there. I understand. I understand what you guys are saying, but just please keep it somewhat kosher. That being said, this all turns around to Gege being a bad writer. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people don't like Gege's writing style because it does leave a lot to the imagination. And while you can like or not like that style of writing, which I'll definitely be getting into later, I think saying Gege is a bad writer is awful. Because the truth is, to say that Gege can only write fights, aura, and hype moments, I think it fully disrespects the idea of what it takes to even put good fights, good aura, and good hype moments together. Like, if you want my true and honest opinion, when it comes to fights, aura, and hype, we have had these buzzwords thrown around like they're bad things recently. So many people go, oh, we've only got hype moments and aura, we've only got fights, oh, you guys only have fight scenes, you guys have no good writing. You know what? I'll go out on a fucking limb, and I don't care what anybody says, because you know what? Life is so much better off of Twitter. You'll always have someone in your fucking ear on Twitter telling you that you're wrong for something. Let me tell you right now, aura, hype moments, and fights are fucking cool. Let's stop acting like they're not. And also, let's pretend to even remember that it requires good writing to have good fights, good aura, and great hype moments. You can't just make a series that's all aura and hype and expect it to do well. You can't just fucking throw shit at the fucking wall and see what sticks, because you know what? You get piss poor series because of that. Like, if you just have random shit going around and fighting and random lights going off in the animation, like, I'll say it, when it comes to a series like Solo Leveling, the amount of videos that I see so often, so all of the time, that are like, bad writing, how to spot bad writing, how to know that Solo Leveling is bad writing, and it's like, it's such a kicking a dead horse. where it's like, I don't think Solo Leveling has bad writing at all. I think Solo Leveling knows exactly what it is. I think Solo Leveling set out to serve a role and serve a purpose, and that's what it did. I genuinely don't think Solo Leveling has bad writing at all. Like, people will say, like, Solo Leveling doesn't develop its side characters. Yeah, because I don't think I don't think the point of Solo Leveling was ever to develop the side characters. Solo Leveling is literally just Jin Woo, the manhwa, and like, that's fun. You can enjoy that. Jin Woo is a fun character. Jin Woo engaging with his shadows is fun. Like, I don't care what anybody says, Beru the Ant King is one of my favorite characters in the Solo Leveling story, because I don't think the show has gotten to that point where Beru has actually gotten a character, but like, it's actually genuinely really cool to see Jin Woo go through his journey, develop. And yeah, is it just him powering up and gaining more power and he beats every single enemy? Sure. But you know what? Who fucking cares? Who cares? If that's what the thing is like, if you want to say that this story isn't for me, I prefer a story that has characters that are more developed. I prefer a story that has more story and plot, and thicker plot lines. No problem. That's fine. But to act like saying that fights, aura, and hype is a bad thing, when again, you can't just throw shit and have it stick. You need to have somewhat decent writing and comprehensive skills of putting a story together to make aura pay off, to make hype pay off. You can't just throw Super Saiyan 5 out into the wind and expect people to love it. I mean, you can do that, but is there any substance behind that? The reason why people remember something like Super Saiyan so fondly, the reason why people remember something like, literally like Bankai, is because all of that aura, all of that hype, all of those good fight moments that happen have so much cracked into them and have so much build up and preparation to those moments that when it finally happens, it's like payoff. It's satisfaction. You have stocks that are paying off. Exactly. Like, they're the stock motion of now you'll have that payoff. You cannot be a bad writer and only exist off of fights and aura and hype. But that's more of a generalized rant. And I think getting into the actual meat of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, I do apologize. Some of these scans that I've gotten may be Spanish. But I think that does actually transition us perfectly into the actual issue here, because so many people have an issue with Tsurugi and Maru. Oh, why did Tsurugi give up? I can't believe that Tsurugi just ruined the fight. Why Maru needed to die? One of these people needed to die. Wasn't Tsurugi fighting for his sister Yuka? Wasn't he doing this? How is he just gonna say he doesn't understand? Let me stop you right there. And the reason why I'm going to stop you right there is because it is crazy to me that people really thought Maru or Tsurugi was going to die in this encounter here. There was no fucking way that shit was going to happen. No fucking way that shit was going to happen. Shadow Prophet, thank you for the dono. Honestly, I think people are just mad that Gege cut off Maharaga versus Deborah before a winner could be decided, even though their fight was building up to have no winner. No, I definitely agree with you, and we will get there. I don't want to jump ahead, but thank you for your support, and we will get there. Trust me, that we will get there. But on top of the fact of death and everything like that, coexistence has been such a big factor of this manga. The Sumerians and the Earthlings finding a chance of harmony, you know, name drop right there for Maru's curse technique, but that has always been the main point of the series. This is part of the reason why I feel like a lot of the criticism is coming from people that only tapped in when the fights went on, is because the issue is, not for nothing, exactly, like, Tsurugi and Maru fighting here was never going to solve anything. If Tsurugi fought Maru to the death, Tsurugi was obviously going to win, right? Tsurugi fought Maru and killed Maru. What would that have changed? What would that have actually solved? That's my biggest question here. Was Tsurugi going to go ahead and fight Deborah before Yuka, you know, came back? Before Yuka died? Like, the Deborah was in a domain expansion with Maharaga, who had adapted to existence. I think both of these characters are leagues above anything that Tsurugi would have been able to handle, even if Maru did die here. Now, people could say that there's the merit, you know, Tsurugi was fighting for a specific reason. Why would he give up on that reason? And I think most people don't even remember the actual conversation that Tsurugi had the flashback with Maki, where Maki, for one, is, you know, characterization that everyone has been waiting for the longest time, for her to actually feel some type of regret, for her to feel some type of emotion in regards to the Zenin clan, and everyone kind of just passed over it, didn't give a single fuck about it. The idea that Maki realized that there could have been a world where Maki and Mai both lived, where Maki didn't have to sacrifice Mai for all of this power, and they could have stopped the Zenin clan in a different way. I mean, so many people have seen my video with Yuta taking on the Zenin clan. Yuta could have easily trounced the Zenin clan, no problem. You have also, yeah, Maki played an important part in Shinjuku Showdown, but they probably could have figured out a way around it. The issue with this, and the idea that Maki is getting across, is that even though it might seem like what you have to do in the moment, there is always potentially another way. Even though in that critical moment when Tsurugi and Maru were fighting, and Tsurugi felt like he needed to fight to get Maru to leave with his people, and Maru wanted to fight back because he felt like his people would not be able to go anywhere else, and he needed to live as a warrior for Samuria and protect the women and children of, you know, his tribe. Tsurugi fighting for, hopefully, to get Maru to leave, which would stop the duel between Yuka and Deborah. But I mean, obviously, if Tsurugi actually did that final blow and killed Maru, again, what would that have solved? And I'll tell you right now, Tsurugi not killing Maru was literally the greatest fucking decision that he ever made. Thinking of his grandmother and realizing that, you know what? In here, I might not always have to lose Maru. It might seem like the right thing to do to fight Maru, kill him, and make him leave with his people. But I'm losing a friend that I have made. And this is what I mean, where we're throwing away all of the previous chapters to come to this conclusion that Tsurugi and Maru needed to come to any different kind of conclusion. Tsurugi and Maru, up until a couple chapters ago, were well along becoming best fucking friends, right? They were literally swimming through the ocean and fucking trying to find octopi together. They were talking about each other's values and coming to a better understanding with one another. They were having dinner with one another. The Sumerian and human people are capable of coexisting. They're capable of living together in harmony. But dumb fucking stupid shit like Kallions and curse spirits, and dumb stupid stuff like you know, Maru and Maru's warrior nature, and Tsurugi feeling like he needs to fight for his sister, need to get in the way of that friendship. This friendship can't continue. But honestly, in my opinion, it makes so much sense for, honestly, both of them to live here. They can find a different solution. So I think the hatred of Tsurugi not finishing the fight with Maru and essentially giving up and letting Maru, quote unquote, take the victory, I think that was the best possible way to end it. I don't think it was rushed. I don't think it came out of nowhere. I think that was always the logical, like, conclusion to this triumph. It was the best conclusion to this triumph. Tsurugi, instead of losing a friend makes a decision that his grandmother never could, makes a decision that Maki was never able to come to, and was that, you know what, instead of killing my friend here, I'm gonna let him live. It might not be the best decision, and I don't know what will come of it, but it is the decision that I make. And instead of being Maki Zenin literally, Tsurugi makes a decision that she never could. And I think that's one of the most important things that so many people need to remember. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is a sequel about people going a different way than their previous generation. The world needs to move away from conflict. The world needs to move away from the cycle of hatred. And Tsurugi and Maru fighting to conclusion, fighting to have one victor, is the cycle of hatred. Just like Maru and just like Yuka and Cross talked about all that time ago. This sounds like cope. You love Gege so much that you're grasping at straws. I mean, if you say so. Again, like, the thing is like, me who has the ability to construct an entire, you know, reason for my point and why all of this makes sense, as opposed to it's just cope, bro. That's exactly what I mean. Like, you're either 14 or like you just are upset that your pet theory didn't come true. And don't worry, I will get to you. Like I said, you don't have to like it, but at least be able to construct your points well. Next up, we have off-screen Deborah and Maharaga. The first time, have you guys actually seen, you know, off-screen before? You guys know what off-screen even fucking means? I have to imagine a lot of you guys don't. Deborah and Maharaga. Again, another fight that was never going to actually come to a conclusion. Because what are the two options here? Maharaga loses and dies, and then Yuka dies? Deborah loses and dies? For why? What does Deborah need to die for? What does Deborah need to, why does Deborah need to die? Why does Yuka need to die? Again, I think this is, again, the misunderstanding of what Modulo's whole entire point was. Why do any of these fights even need to happen in the first place? They don't. It's entirely fucking stupid that any of these fights are happening, because we were able to have peace before a moment ago, and people like Gakumaru and Asuki, the fucking radicals of the situation who refuse to have actual fucking peace. And that's because they want justice, and we will get to that chapter. But I want to specifically discuss Deborah and Maharaga's fight here, and in regards to off-screening in general, because this fight was not off-screened. This fight was not off-screened. Nothing about this fight was off-screened. Maharaga and Deborah, their duel was interrupted. Maru transported Deborah out of the duel and said, all right, you need to leave Earth, so that way if you go back to Samaria, you and Yuka's ritual will be null and void. We literally have this told to us in the chapter, but it seems like so many people are incapable of understanding this entirely. Deborah and Maharaga coming to a conclusion in their battle would have killed Yuka assuredly. Deborah, the whole point of Deborah and Maharaga's battle, narrative-wise, always was to have them come to a conclusion where neither of them died. I don't think Yuji's going to finish off Maharaga. I don't think Maharaga is out there still rampaging, and Megami is, you know, going to show up now and solve the problem. I mean, if that happens, would I be mad? No, but I genuinely don't think any of that is important. Why? Because again, the whole point of Modulo was finding a way to coexist, finding a way to create harmony between the two people. And having a winner of the duel for Earth was not a way to have harmony, let alone, again, we got all of the fight. It's the same thing with Gojo. It's the same way with Gojo. To say that Gojo was off screen is also completely incorrect. Completely incorrect. We got all of Gojo versus Sukuna. We saw all of that fight to completion. The only thing that we did not see was the world cutting slash cut Gojo. Literally. It's actually insane to me that people even say that Gojo was off-screened. Alls we did not see was a slash through his two halves. We got that fight to completion. And that was done for narrative choice. That was done because Gege thought that would be a much cooler narrative choice. Instead of actually sitting there and watching the slash happen, we get to see a scene with Gojo in the afterlife as a quick, oh shit moment. You can not like that, but again, to say that Gojo was off-screened is completely wrong. Again, this is a similar situation. It's still an off-screen death, even at the exact moment. No, it's not important because the death was shown in front of us. We saw Gojo's dead body. An off-screen death is when someone is never shown again. That is not an off-screen death. Gojo would have to have been never seen again. Same thing with Deborah. Deborah had their fight interrupted. Maru says their fight was interrupted so that Deborah can be sent off to Samaria. You want to know what an off-screen fight actually is? We've got our boy here in the background. Most of you guys don't know who he is. Spoilers for Tokyo Ghoul. If you do not want to be spoiled for Tokyo Ghoul, I'm about to spoil a heavy moment in Tokyo Ghoul to make my point. If you don't care, then you don't care. If you do care, this is your moment. An actual off-screening is Ken Kaneki versus Juzo Suzuya. And I want to completely reiterate here. We saw all of Gojo versus Sukuna. We saw all of Gojo versus Sukuna. Saw all of it. The only thing that we did not see was the world cutting slash hitting Gojo. In Tokyo Ghoul, I would genuinely say Ken Kaneki versus Juzo might be one of the closest things to Gojo versus Sukuna that you possibly could have gotten in that series. So I want you to actually think about this. Imagine Gojo and Sukuna meet up in Shinjuku. We get that panel with Sukuna like standing like this. He's like the strongest sorcerer of history fights the strongest sorcerer of today. And then the very next page, it's just dead Gojo. Because that's what happened to Ken Kaneki versus Juzo Suzuya. That's it. We didn't see a lick of it. Didn't see a lick of it. And it went right to Ken being dead and going through an afterlife moment of him talking with all of his multiple different versions of himself as he basically coped with the fact that he just got fucking cooked. And my point, I'm going to also go into an entirely separate subject of discussion when it comes to off-screening as well. Because if you want me to be completely honest with you, I'm okay with that. I'm all right with it. Would it have been super cool to see Juzo versus Kaneki? Yes. It would have been awesome. In the grand scheme of things, narratively, did we need to see that battle for a satisfying ending? No. I genuinely think sometimes in certain situations, some things can exist that have so much buildup, so much hype, so much preparation surrounding it and expectation around it that no matter what is given to the populace, it will never be as good as what we could have possibly imagined it was. Now, getting Gojo versus Sukuna was definitely, in my opinion, better than not getting Ken versus Juzo at all. And again, I think when you consider that Ken and Juzo literally was off-screened, and you compare it to Gojo versus Sukuna, where literally, again, imagine that. The strongest sorcerer of today versus the strongest sorcerer of history, and then you turn the page and it's just dead Gojo. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Yo, are you guys able to hear me now? Good lord. Think I got it. I actually can't stand Bluetooth headphones. They are the worst creation known to man. Alright. Alright. We're back. Hold on. I'm just getting everything else set back. Okay. We're back. Sorry about that. That was very annoying. And I feel like I've lost all my freaking energy now, dude. That was like frustrating as all heck to figure it out. Every single pair of Bluetooth headphones I've ever gotten sucks. They're all trash. I need to just get a new computer and just plug in headphones because holy crap, annoying. So I don't even remember what I was last talking about. I genuinely, I've lost my cadence. I've lost where I was in the presentation. We were talking about off screens. I mean, look. Ultimately, I feel like my main point is that an off-screen death, an off-screen fight can be used in an interesting way, usually in regards to how the author wants to portray the moment. I don't think Gege was rage baiting when he just drew Gege dead. I think genuinely he thought the imagination portion of someone being able to envision what the world cutting slash would just do to Gojo was much better than what actually watching that happen on screen. Anything that he would have been able to create would have been. And I think, believe it or not, the same can ultimately be said for Ken Kaneki versus Juzo and Suzuya. Anything that Suishida would have drawn and put to page would not have been good compared to anything we could have imagined in our heads. It would not have been as good as what we would have imagined. And you can disagree with that, you can not like that, that's fine. But I think a lot of people and a lot of criticisms you may see afterwards are just like, oh, well, that fight wasn't long enough, that fight wasn't good enough. And then you get into the Gojo versus Sukuna debate where so many people are going back and forth on the fight. It kind of just completely shifts the discourse of the series away from what the ultimate point is, that Ken lost, and the more important narrative idea was him dealing with the fact that he lost. Same with Gojo. And talking at length about both Gojo versus Sukuna and Ken versus Juzo, I think it should be very obvious to see how Deborah and Maharaga are entirely different. It's such a different situation where it's not an off-screen. It's not that the fight came to an end where we couldn't see it. It's not that we'll never get Deborah versus Maharaga, or Maharaga's just rampaging around and Gege didn't think about that. It's that the whole point was obviously finding a way where both of these characters could walk away from this fight without dying. And they found that way to do so, which was always the goal of that fight in the first place. Deborah killing Maharaga was only going to end up killing Yuki. Yuji jumping into the ritual and, you know, stopping and killing Maharaga. Yuji even says that he's really not going to step into that unless he actually has to. And what did he do? He doesn't have to step into the fight at all. I think ultimately going from the buzzword section to the Maru vs. Tsurugi section to this section What we're really beginning to see is that a lot of people, in my opinion, miss the point of Modulo entirely. Because something that I continually hear over and over and over and over again is, what was the point? What was the whole point of the merger? What was the whole point of this? It completely, I've seen people say it shits on the previous series and everything the previous series set up. I've seen that people say that Gege literally didn't know what to do in Modulo, so all he could do was jingle keys of Yuji and fun hype and aura moments for people to actually read it, even though it was charting at #1 in TC. It was charting at #1 in Shonen Jump almost every week on release. Well before the fights even happened. I feel like a lot of people don't even remember that 14 chapters of Modulo is not fighting. I mean, sure, I guess you have the curse user fight. So I'd say there's honestly about an equal amount of chapters of just dialogue compared to an equal number of chapters of just fighting. But the point of those fights was always what Modulo was leading towards to begin with. Maru and Tsurugi being able to end their fight without killing each other. Yuka and Deborah being able to end their fight without killing each other. The antagonist and the struggle of Modulo was always, in reality, why do these characters need to be fighting? We need to be able to find a way to get these characters to stop fighting. And that's what they did. Maru and Yuji found a way to get everyone to stop fighting. That was the whole point of Modulo from the very beginning. And you can kind of see this with the beginning of Modulo discourse of, is Deborah stronger than Sukuna? Is Deborah is the new Sukuna character? Who's going to be, everyone's going to be able to, fight, someone's going to be able to fight Deborah. He's going to be the main antagonist of the series. A lot of people considered someone like Deborah the main antagonist that needed to be defeated. Deborah needed to be killed. Deborah needed to be stopped. When Deborah was just a chill guy that was just protecting the people and holding a promise to his old friend. Which is why when he knows he doesn't have to protect those people anymore, and he knows he fulfilled that promise by looking after Maru and Cross for Dula, Deborah can leave. And also on top of the fact that Deborah leaving is the point of saving Yuka. That's how they save Yuka. Now they only have to save Yuka from brain cancer. But everything leading up to chapter 23 has been coming to this. It's always been finding a way for these people to live in harmony. The Lumelian tribe going back to Sumeria is not the answer. The Lumelians can't go back to Sumeria. I feel like so many people forget this. The Lumelian people cannot go back to Sumeria. The Discante tribe will not allow these people to coexist. The Discante tribe are not going to accept the Lumelian tribe back. Well, people are going to say, oh, well, Deborah can just go back and kill all of them. Really? Is that an exceptional end? Is that really the overall lesson of the series? Well, you know what? Let's just get so strong we can go back and kill everyone on the planet that doesn't like us. Because remember, like, while the Discante are the most powerful tribe on Sumeria, the other tribes don't like Lumel either. The other tribes don't like the Lumel either. No one on that planet wants the Lumelian people. And on top of the fact that it's not even, you could say the Kallion, oh, the Lumelian people need to get rid of their Kallion religion. It's the Kallion religion that they're incompatible with society. A lot of people forget that the Kallion was just an excuse. The Discante people used the Kallion as a way to get one over on the Lumelian people time and time again. The only reason the Lumelian people were pushed into that segregated zone was because the Discante people wanted the Muru stones from the Lumelian people. So they staged something where it says, oh, the Kallion killed us. The Kallion ate my daughter. oh, but we can just go on and now we're gonna go win this tournament and we're gonna take all of your land. And now we have all the Muru stones and now we're the richest people in the world. And damn, fuck these people for their Kallions, right? People, so many people do not remember that. So many people skipped that part or missed that part or didn't pay attention to that part because the leaker that they were watching did not cover that part in detail. But the Lumelian people were always going to be used as scapegoats. The Melian people were always going to have that religion, their way of life, used against them, whether for reliable reasons, as many people say, like, oh, well, they're still incompatible, they need to give up their religion. If that's how you feel, that's fine. Dula even brings up this fact in the story itself. Gege addresses this. Dula says, yeah, most people are just going to assume that we should just give up Kallions. That's probably the average opinion. That's probably that it makes sense that you would come to that conclusion. But at the end of the day, like, why do they have to give up, you know, their religion? It's their way of life. They just want to be accepted. They don't have to be understood. They just have to be accepted, and then let the Lumelian people figure out their Kallion issue on their own. Come to Earth, obviously the Kallion situation is much different and much worse because you have cursed spirits that, once again, are not Kallion. Cursed spirits are not Kallion. They just have, as we find out in this chapter, a very similar soul wavelength to Kallion. It's inconvenient and weird, and people like Asuki and radicals are going to abuse that fact for their own gain. Remember, cursed spirits and Kallion are not equal. Cross wanted to and could have made that very clear to the Lumelian people. He has enough votes. Jabaloma would have trusted him. Deborah would have been on his side. They could have convinced the Sumerian, I keep saying Sumerian, but you know I'm talking about the Lumelian people on Earth. They could have convinced the Lumelian people and voted against them of this whole cursed spirit Kallion thing. But what happened? Someone like Asuki, who, remember, was already looking for an excuse to turn the tides and be the Discante and oppress humans. He's literally talking about this with the Elder. He goes, yeah, I wish we could just make this our autonomous zone and kick those humans out and start being the Discante and just, you know, we can use Deborah and kill all the humans and we can be number one. This was the guy that the moment he put two and two together that, oh my God, cursed spirits and Kallion, he doesn't give a fuck if they're actually the same thing or if they're not the same thing. Asuki was able to use this to radicalize his people against the humans, just like Yakumaru was able to use the cursed spirit excuse as a way to radicalize and shoot Cross. Cross reached into his pocket and that was enough for Yakumaru to shoot. And the fact that I have seen so many people be like, yeah, Yakumaru is justified. Are we for real? Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. No way. I don't believe you. Like, what caused the devolution and what caused Maru and Tsurugi to come at odds, what caused Yuka and Deborah to come at odds, what caused all of this issue is genuinely the abuse, the radicalism, the way that people are going to take something and abuse it. People are going to take something and go and use it for their own gain. That they were always wanting to turn against the other side. They just used the Kallion as a convenient excuse. So anybody that says the Lumelian people are incompatible with any society because they won't give up the Kallion curse spirit shindig is just wrong. Because they don't need to give up the Kallion curse spirit shindig. Sure, you can say that they're able to go up against it now and cause issues and cause curse spirits, but they're not Kallion. But again, they can use that excuse to get ahead. They can use that excuse to get one over on the other side. The point is always that the cycle of hatred continues until someone is willing to accept that it doesn't have to be this way. And that's why Cross and Yuka have that discussion. Cross and Yuka talk, and Cross gives and lays out the entire backstory of their people and how Cross has every reason to feel the way that he does and not trust the Earthlings. And yet Yuka says, if you're just going to take from us, are you not creating that same cycle of hatred? Cross is able to understand, give in to the Earthling idea of peace, and what happens? They actually have a nice dinner and come to peace and come together. But people like Asuki, people like Yakumaru ruin that. So how do we get back to coexistence? How do we find a way to coexist? We need to find a way to create harmony. So what do? They're going to do the plan that they spent at length discussing the pros and cons of entirely. This quote unquote merger of eliminating curse energy as a whole. That in and of itself is even a selfish action, because even Itadori Yuji, almost as like a vessel of Gege, acknowledges the faults of this merger plan from the very beginning and really lays all of it out. Hey, we are doing something that may cause issues later. We are doing something that may quite literally fuck with the future as a whole. We may fuck up the future for people if we don't have any more natural resources and we actually have curse spirit and we actually need curse energy for the future. We may create a world where if we give everyone curse energy, we may create a world where we have nothing but curse users running rampant and fighting each other, and we may just cause more conflict outside of the curse spirits and Kallions. Yuji admits that they're taking bodily autonomy away from everybody by ripping away their potential of having curse energy and basically just saying, no, you guys don't get to even have a choice in the matter. They are fully acknowledging that their plan is flawed and what they're doing is wrong. That being said, they're going to do it anyway because it leads to the best possible outcome for the next 300 years or so. Kallion are cool and all, but what happens when the Kallion on the ship attacks a human eventually? I mean, literally, you have Yuji who's just hanging out and touching the Kallion. I mean, you could argue that the Kallion is one, you know, seeing Yuji as a fellow Kallion. He sees it as a fellow friend. But the Kallion on the ship can just stay on the ship. The Kallion on the ship hasn't attacked anyone yet. And also, the Kallion on the ship is going to be gone. The Kallion on the ship, Maru is also getting rid of the oldest living Kallion in Lumel history. Like, also, like, that, the Kallion is being sacrificed as well. It is going with the curses. I think also a lot of people miss that importantly as well, is the Kallion is also going to disappear. Maru is also sacrificing that as well. We're getting rid of everybody. Everybody's going. Everyone's taking sacrifices. It's the barbaric lifestyle. How is there a barbaric lifestyle despite a civilized society? So I also really think that's really, really important to say too. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that the Discante tribe aren't that much more advanced than Earth. Like, they are very primitive in nature. You can see that when we actually get the flashbacks of Samuria. They're not really advanced at all. At all. But I think a lot of people also don't realize that, like, kind of what we were saying with Maru and Tsurugi. Like, yes, they are cutting off one future, but that does not mean that that's the only future possible. Like, if we really were to run out of natural resources as a whole and curse energy was our only situation left, do we really think humanity, we would just go out and just die? We wouldn't find any other way. We wouldn't harness nuclear energy. We wouldn't harness solar energy. We wouldn't, like, we would figure it out. I think the issue is, ultimately, most people don't agree with the idea of peace. Most people don't agree with getting rid of cursed energy and not having sorcerers anymore. I even saw the issue that a lot of people thought that Deborah getting so strong has no reasons whatsoever. So I'm glad that you are actually bringing up, you know, chaos and harmony, because that's actually our next chapter in the rant. Maru's plot no jutsu. And we're going to do this left to right. We're going to do this left to right, indeed. So a lot of people's main issue is Maru and Cross's curse technique, chaos and harmony. Now, chaos and harmony are definitely rough. Thank you for the donation, Dion. Thank you for the 5. We get it. Narrative themes, characterization, important lessons, etc. All that's cool. Problem, I still don't know the name of Yuji's domain. True. So, Maru and Cross's curse technique is very fucking overpowered. We find out in the fight with the curse user that the curse user feels that his harmony is quite literally the power to distort the natural laws of order itself. He is able to basically manipulate the laws of reality. He can manipulate anti-gravity. He can manipulate elements. He can manipulate nature. Maru can essentially bend the world around him to his will as he sees fit. Which, as a whole, definitely is a very OP cursed ability. For sure. Very OP cursed ability. The thing is, genuinely, you know what? We've had plenty of crazy curse techniques before. People have brought up Takaba. People have literally brought up the whole idea that this is just Takaba brought into reality itself. I think when it comes down to the idea of the merger, I think Maru's technique was basically set up for this from the very beginning. I think you can not like that Maru's curse technique is essentially the answer to everything, but I think even from chapter 1, it was said that Maru's curse technique would be the answer to everything. Maru's curse technique is the ability to find harmony. Maru's curse technique is the reason this story happens in the first place. The non-axe creation is quite literally the creation of Maru and Cross's combined curse techniques with all of the Muru stones able to use it. They're able to create a spaceship that takes them to the exact place that they need to go, to Earth. It takes them 2 years, and I think that's also important to mention as well, is that the non-axe was a one-way trip to Earth. There was no guarantee that any of these people even knew where they were going when they went on this spaceship. Maru's curse technique as a technique of harmony literally basically just warped them right to Earth. It warped them to the perfect place that Lumelian people would be able to exist. And yes, when Maru awakens his eye, which connects him to Cross, basically, because they're twins, Maru has the ability to use both chaos and harmony. What does chaos and harmony do? I mean, like it says right here, it distorts the natural laws of order itself. And it does have limitations, it does have restrictions. Harmony itself cannot do harm to people. We actually even learn this in chapter 23 itself. Harmony is not capable of doing harm to people. You have chaos. Maru using chaos is essentially how he's able to fight. What does that mean? That means he's able to find a perfect connection. Harmony is able to find the perfect connection, and chaos is able to distort that perfect connection. So by using both, like, let me give you an example. It's actually perfect right here when Maru is fighting the curse user. Maru's harmony basically finds the exact perfect thing that he may need in place and time, and then Cross's chaos distorts it. So for example, when Maru was creating and using the water against this curse user, Maru's harmony basically is what allows him to target the water because that's the perfect target for the fight, and then chaos distorts the natural laws of water. So chaos basically turns water hot, and then harmony goes, okay, this water is really, really hot. The next thing to do would be to turn it cold, and then chaos turns it cold. It's why alone Maru is only able to find a perfect match, but with chaos, Maru is actually able to fight. Again, it is very blanketly explained. It's very vaguely explained. It's not given a concrete explanation as to how it works entirely, but I think that's done purposely, because again, it's meant to be a plot technique. You can not like the plot technique, you can not like it because it's very much used specifically to move the plot along, but that's fine. I think you can not like it, but I think it's something that was very clearly set up from the very beginning, you know? Like, again, the story is only capable as with their techniques, and that's set up multiple times. I don't know. Okay, so it's just a plot device. Thank you. I mean, but that doesn't make the story bad. That doesn't make it bad writing. It serves its purpose, and it's set that way up from the very beginning. Again, Modulo is only possible because of Maru's technique in the first place. Maru's technique is how they find Earth. Maru's technique is how they create harmony between the non-X ship to get them to Earth in the first place. Tsurugi finds this out and figures this all out. It's how and why their fight even starts to begin with. I don't think that's bad writing at all. I think that's the whole point of Modulo. You know, it's not like... I don't think it's a MacGuffin by any means. I don't think it's a MacGuffin by any means. A MacGuffin is something that exists that just has no purpose and has no point and is just there to exist as a plot convenience. I think Maru's technique exists on a whole grander scale to that. Might not be able to might not be able to coherently put out my thoughts right now on that, but I really don't think it's as bad as many people are saying. I think it's a nitpick. Would you think Yuji's soul punches are plot devices? True, yeah. You know, that's also, you know, I feel like that's a pretty decent convenience. You know, sometimes, you know, I think curse techniques as a whole could be considered a plot convenience. But I also think harmony serves more purpose than just being that, because, oh, nope, we went back. We gotta go back. We gotta go back. We gotta go back. Harmony also serves as a reason why the Descante cannot reinvade. The Descante are unable to ever reach the home that they get specifically because the non-X is such an anomaly of nature. The Sumerian people are not capable of space travel. I think so many people have an issue with the way that the story is ending because they think that the Descante tribe could come back to the planet and harm them. Needless to say that Deborah is also going back, so Deborah can stop them from ever doing this. But they won't ever be able to find their way back to Earth anyway. Maru is able to send Deborah and his sister back to Sumeria because that will essentially create the perfect opportunity to help Yuka and save Yuka. Again, harmony, the perfect solution to the issue, the perfect harmonizing thing that they can create. Maru and Cross's technique literally bends reality. It distorts the natural laws of order itself. It's told from chapter 1, from chapter 6. You could say that Takaba's technique is a plot device, and I don't think you would be wrong to say that. But again, does that make Takaba bad writing? Would you have this much of a deal with Takaba versus Kenjaku? Some people do. Some people really, really do. You know what I mean? But Takaba's technique is almost very similar to, keep ignoring the point. What's your argument towards Takaba? I don't want to keep getting bogged down on your nitpicks of the story, to be completely honest with you. You know, like it's like Takaba and Maru, I think, are pretty much are neck and neck, equal plot devices. And I think this ultimately brings us towards A good plot device used for one or maybe two things. Every single aspect of Modulo is solved and moved forward by chaos and harmony. That's why it's bad. Takuba was used solely to defeat Kenjaku. I mean, what else was... Again, I mean, if I guess if you want to say that, that's fine. Again, it was set up this way from the very beginning. And also, I think you're over exaggerating that it solved everything. You know what I mean? I really don't think so, because again, Tsurugi needed to not kill Maru, right? Like, Tsurugi needed to not kill Maru for this to even happen in the first place. So I think there are multiple things that also needed to occur. And moving on, that honestly brings me to my ultimate point here and of itself: Iori, Megami, and the midi-chlorian problem. Because at the end of the day, like, Maru's plot no jutsu, if you don't like it, you don't like it. I don't think that's necessarily wrong of you to not like it, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think from the very beginning, Maru's technique was used to get the Lumelian people to Earth. It was always meant to create harmony. It was always meant to be used to create harmony between the two people. From chapter 1, it was used to literally find something as simple as Tsurugi and Yuka being able to find each other when they were looking for the curse user. I think overall, Maru's technique, sure, definitely plays a heavy hand in the story, but it's also important to remember that Maru's harmony would not have worked if they did not have the curse energy from Yuta's ring, the Muru stones from the non-axe, Yuji Itadori, Mahito, and is that it? Is that everything? And the Kallion from the original spaceship. So like, even if you want to say that like Maru's curse technique is a plot device, there are so many moving facets of the story that harmony is genuinely just the thing that brings everything together. Like, I think Gege did a very impactful job. Again, even if you don't think it's enough, he definitely took that into consideration and said, okay, Maru's harmony is going to solve a lot of issues, so what I'm going to do is have all of these things additionally be required for this resolution. This resolution is not something that Maru would have been able to bring about by himself. This resolution would only be possible by all of these different moving pieces together. By Tsurugi being able to, for one, come to a different conclusion than his grandmother and let Maru live despite everything. You also have 110% as well Yuji Itadori still existing and being able to take care of the future of the plan and make sure that the plan that they make continues and goes to fruition. Because again, even if they go about the harmony plan, they have future issues that the harmony plan will have that Yuji will be able to go about and continue on and fight in for another 300 years. You have Yuta Okotsu's children and Yuta Okotsu himself basically amassing cursed energy for 60 to 70 years. 110%. So I think, like I said, you can not like Maru's curse technique, but Maru's curse technique is not the only part that brings us to the story. It's not the only thing that brings us to the ending, because at the end of the day, even if you want to call Maru's harmony lazy, there are so many other things that had to be brought together for this ending to be possible that even if there's one lazy thing in that circle, there's still 5 other things that had to be put together that were built up for 20 something chapters to bring us to this point. So I think ultimately, even if you have an issue with Maru's curse technique does not hold enough weight in the story for it to ruin the ending. Important themes and issues that would require 20 plus chapters. What are the, and that, so here's, that's actually a perfect thing. Like, I can't even begin to even tackle what important themes and issues are left to solve in Modulo, entire arcs even, because that's just not true. Modulo literally doesn't have anything left to cover. Everything is solved. There's nothing left to discuss. And if you think that, that brings us to our next chapter perfectly, the perfect transition here. Iorio Kotsu, Megami Fushiguro, and the midi-chlorian problem. Now, if you're not familiar with midi-chlorians, let me fill you in a little bit and bring us back to a Star Wars analogy, if you will. Star Wars, the Sith, the Jedi, the Force, this supernatural thing and power that lets everyone, Jedi, do their crazy magic and Sith shoot fucking lightning beams and everything at each other, right? How cool is it that Jedi and Sith can just focus and just meditate and just train for decades, years, and learn how to use this through the force of will within them? Now, how shitty does it sound that actually your level of potential with the Force is decided at birth because of your midichlorian cell count that you actually have, and it's just a kind of a genetic lottery if you're a really strong Force user or not? Doesn't that kind of suck? Doesn't that kind of ruin the whimsy? Doesn't that kind of ruin the coolness factor of, like, and also the idea that everyone can just be a Jedi? You just need to, you know, train hard and, you know, attribute yourself to the philosophy, and like it's all kind of a personal thing. Like, sometimes, you know what? I'm a firm believer in, we don't need the answer to everything for the story to be satisfying. We don't need everything. We don't need to know what's going on with Iorio Kotsu. We don't need to know where Iorio Kotsu went. Loud, thank you for the dono. Thank you for the $10 dono. How come Chaos and Harmony couldn't work on Rika's cursed energy? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I cannot answer. I am not that. I cannot speak for, again, like, I cannot speak for every possible facet of Chaos and Harmony. But again, I just don't think Chaos and Harmony is that big of a deal, to be honest with you. But like we don't need the answer to everything. Like, we don't need to know what's going on with Iori. We don't need to know where Megami is. You know, so like, genuinely, when it comes down to it, like, I see constantly, like, oh, we still have so many things to finish in Modulo. We still have so many things to cover, and Gege needs to drop a plot twist right now. I mean, doesn't the Harmony plan kind of solve everything? Kind of does. Not really much else to cover. And also, not for nothing, that was kind of, where else was the story going to go? Were we going to get a couple 10 more chapters of fight scenes? Like, I feel like everyone's character fully developed, especially when it comes to people like Tsurugi. Maru's character is now in the process of being fully developed by the end, with him realizing that he has to bear this sin on his own, but realizing he doesn't have to bear the sin on his own. He's got friends that will be there to bear that sin with him, thank God. And again, Deborah gets the black rope and gets his sister's curse handled so he can go back home, because everything that he needed to do for Dula was solved now that the Sumerian people are safe. The Lumel tribe is safe on Earth. I feel like, you know what, like, that's it. Why introduce things you know you're never going to address again? It's just blue balling. It's not blue balling. The thing is not everything needs to be answered, and some things are left to be up to your imagination, right? Some things are meant to be your imagination. We can now think of all of the cool ways and cool different things that Iorio Kotsu could have done and why it could have done. Because the truth is, you know what? Iorio Kotsu isn't important to the story that's being told. Iorio Kotsu and what he's doing right now doesn't matter. Who the fuck cares? Deborah issues were definitely taken care of, but it's also important to recognize that if Deborah's issue with his sister wasn't taken care of, then Yuka would have died. So part of the reason that we needed to separate Deborah and Yuka are so we could separate that ritual, because Yuji already said he didn't want to be involved. But in the grand scheme of things, I literally just love everything that we got. And also something like Iorio Kotsu is just, you know, world building. Something like we didn't know what happened to Iorio Kotsu, and now Tsurugi got that small little tidbit of information to go off of. Iorio Kotsu may never show back up again. We don't know what Iorio Kotsu is doing. Yeah, Iori was used to show us the current state of Yuji. That's also pretty important. Like, why can't Harmony just bring Deborah's sister to Earth? Deborah's sister was on Earth, Leo. Deborah's sister was already on Earth. The issue is that Deborah wasn't going to leave Earth without his sister, and Deborah couldn't go back to Samaria if his sister was still cursed, because then he's just under Discante rule. The Discante just have full control over him. So by getting the black rope, it completely... No, yes, you now see, this is why I can't Harmony just bring Deborah's sister to Earth on Earth with the black. I don't even know what you're saying, dog, to be honest with you. I don't even know what you're saying. I ultimately think I gotta stop looking at chat, because I need to stay on. I just need to stay on keen on task for the presentation, because you guys are triggering me. And ultimately, what it comes down to, I think, at the end of all of this, I genuinely think that people don't like to have things put up to their interpretation. I don't think people like to imagine things anymore. And I think that is why people are so fucking ass mad about Deborah versus Maharaga. Because people need to know who was going to win. People need to know what Deborah's domain was. People need to know if Maharaga was stronger than Deborah, or if Deborah was stronger than Maharaga. Whether that reasons are for agenda, for personal satisfaction, for they believe it's important to the story or not. Instead of having that left up to interpretation and left up for imagination, we need the answer to these questions. But sometimes, as we got with midichlorians, we don't always need the answer. And sometimes when we get the answer, sometimes that's shittier than just not having it. Just terrible. Like, Iorio Kotsu, we may find out he's just a deadbeat and he's done literally nothing. He just left his family and he's just chilling in the Yakuza. That would suck. That'd be stupid. Why did you have to tell us that, Gege? I'd rather have thought of my own reasoning for why he left and what it was. Oh, actually, Iori, you know, he, you know what, he harikiri'd. Oh, well, that's kind of sad and depressing. I kind of would have liked the idea that Iorio Kotsu could have been maybe a villain in the background and maybe something that they may have to deal with in the future. I remember when the story started and people were so mad that we didn't focus more on the human trafficking business. And we needed to focus more on that, and we needed answers on that and what's going on with that. And not only did they say that the business was pretty much ending due to the existence of aliens as a whole, but on top of that, that wasn't the main point of the story, and that wasn't important. That wasn't important to the series. I saw so many people being like, well, Megami didn't show up. We needed to see where Megami was, and Megami not showing up is a problem. No, it's not. What would Megami showing up bring to the story? It would just be, that would be Gege jingling his keys in front of us. And again, with this story ultimately ending towards Modulo coexistence, I think there are sometimes we just didn't need all the answers, right? We needed to know how Maru, Cross, Yuka, and Tsurugi finished their story. And Usami. That's all we ever needed. Anything else, irrelevant, not necessary. Especially in a series that's 25 chapters. You could want the story to be longer, but that doesn't make it bad. It's very similar to mainline Jujutsu Kaisen. You can want the story to be longer, that doesn't make it bad. And I think this kind of leads me to my final thing here, and why I think so many people don't like the peaceful ending. Why so many people are calling it Disney Kaisen, why so many people are upset, and why so many people do not like this ending. And it's because at the end of the day, people do not want peace. They want justice. People don't give a shit about peace. Peace is boring. Peace isn't spicy. It doesn't excite you. It doesn't give you dopamine in your head. What does give you dopamine is knowing that the problem was solved. There was a winner. There was a loser. Justice was served. Punishment was brought out to people that did wrong. And everything that we focused, everything that we fought for mattered to some degree. And I think all of the time, and I want to make a longer video on this completely, of this panel from Tokyo Ghoul Re. And I referenced Tokyo Ghoul already before, but a little bit of a spoiler, but towards the end of the series, when there are ghouls and humans and everyone is trying to come together to face a common enemy and not all be killed, there are some people that don't want to join and ally with the other side simply because of the sacrifices that have been made along the way. And in this, we get one of the greatest dialogues of all time, in my opinion. I get the feeling I know how you're feeling. If the CCG and the ghouls join hands, CCG is humans, right? If the humans and ghouls join hands, well, won't all the sacrifices we've all made end up being for nothing? There are so many people that died in the fight of humans versus ghouls. So many people that lived their lives to this conflict, survived, fought, died, sacrificed themselves for others. So many people have so much sunken cost into this war that even though there's a larger enemy and allying is the only way we can save ourselves, we would rather continually conflict and fight one another and fight amongst ourselves for petty reasons such as justice, for petty reasons such as my brother Cross got shot and people need to pay for that. My sister Yuka is fighting for her fighting and risking her life in a duel for the world, and your people need to pay for that. When in reality, at the end of the fucking day, what should always be the most important goddamn thing of all is no one ever fighting. No more fighting. No more fucking violence. No more nonsense. Everyone just be friends. Everyone just be peaceful. All of that bullshit that you care about, Cross getting shot, Yakumaru losing his arm, none of that is as important as all of us just coming together and existing and being able to fucking live a peaceful goddamn life. Everyone just wants to be able to live, bro. No one wants to be doing all this nonsense. No one wants to die. No one wants to fight. And I think you saw this from the very beginning in the Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo fandom when it was revealed over the last 60 years that a single special grade curse hasn't appeared And because of that, because of cursed spirits downgrading and sorcery as a whole downgrading, sorcerers have become weak. And people said Gojo failed. People don't want peace. They want justice. People want to feel like the people that survived are still strong. They're still there. They're still doing the good fight. They're still out there doing the good fight. But that's not peace. If our characters are continually conflicting, fighting special grade curse spirits tooth and nail every day, if they are still fighting curse users and sorcerers and people are still growing stronger and we're becoming Dragon Ball Z because more and more stronger people keep showing up, that's not what Gojo wanted. That's not what Yuki wanted. That's not what anybody wants. Gojo and everybody just wanted to create a world where they didn't have to have their homies get unrecognizably fucking destroyed by curse spirits. And in a world where finally, technically, Gojo got what he wanted. Curse spirits don't show up anymore. Sorcerers don't really have to fight anymore. They're literal, like, fucking downgraded to low grade paranormal investigators that might fight a curse user every once in a while. They have to deal with curses, you know, and it's literally a game to them dealing with low level curses. Like, this is Gojo's succession. This is Gojo winning and Gojo succeeding and the next generation doing the best they could to carry on. And so many people were upset that the Gojo clan was still fucking around with Yuka's ring, and the moment that Yuta and Maki died, people started being fucked up again. And the truth is, at the end of the day, people are always gonna suck, man. You could solve every problem in the world, and 1 week later, something new is gonna show up. The fight doesn't end. The battle never ends. Life is struggle. Life is pain. There's no such thing as a happy ending. Everyone lives happy and everything's good to go and there's never a problem ever again. Not in real life, not in fiction. There's always imagining, thinking of it, stuff that happens after the book closes. And I feel like people don't like the idea of Deborah and Maharaga and Yuka both being able to walk away with everything that they needed. People don't like the idea that Deborah got the black rope and was able to go back home with his sister. Even though it's the only way that they would have been able to save Yuka and also make Deborah happy, people wanted a satisfying conclusion to that fight. People felt like they needed to know what Deborah's domain did and what Deborah and Maharaga were capable of doing to one another. Who was the stronger one? People wanted Jujutsu Kaisen sequel, where we go out to Sumeria and we fight the Discante people, we fight the Discante tribe, and we fight other planets of sorcerers, and we keep going. Or, you know what, as many people have said in this chat, we want a bad plot twist to happen where suddenly a villain appears and suddenly it leads into Jujutsu Kaisen 3 and Tsurugi and Yuka have to use everything they've learned to this point to fight on against an even stronger enemy. When in reality, that's not what Modulo was leading towards. Like that's not what we wanted. That's not what we were going for, like that's not what Modulo ever was supposed to be about. Modulo was always about something that even Dula says way back in chapter 8, for people that say, this came out of nowhere. It's all about finding coexistence. It's all about people being able to take loss, accept loss, and be able to be the bigger person to stop the cycle of violence. The cycle of violence will continue. The cycle of violence will always continue until someone's willing to be the bigger person. And I think people don't like the ending, and they want Yuji to stop Maharaga. They want a new villain to appear as a plot ending twist that, you know, brings us into a new sequel, and we want more Jujutsu Kaisen, is because we don't want Jujutsu Kaisen to end. We don't want that story to come to a close. We want more agenda. We want more hype moments. We want more fighting. But in reality, no more fighting is always the most important thing. That's what Tsurugi was able to think of at the end of his fight with Maru. He thought losing was the right thing to do. That's what Maru did for Deborah, so Deborah could leave and let Yuka survive. And that's why Deborah, even after realizing he loves fighting, realizing that he wanted to realize his strength as a warrior, and he felt kinship with Maharaga, Deborah says, "Oh, well, Maru, if that's what you think is right, I fulfilled my purpose." And Maru goes, "Whoa, like, Deborah, are you different? Something's changed about you." And Deborah goes, "No, nothing's changed. I just know what being a warrior means." And remember, that brings us all the way back to what a warrior is there for in the first place. That was also shown to us in the beginning of the series. A warrior is not there to fight and die. Jabaloma, the goat Jabaloma, the best character in Modulo. Jabaloma tells us a warrior is not existing to fight and die. A warrior exists to protect his fucking people. A warrior exists for the women and children. A warrior exists for the innocent. A warrior exists and doesn't fight senseless battles where they die for no reason. They live to fight another goddamn fucking day. Because that's always the goal at the end. That's what Tsurugi did. That's what Tsurugi fucking did. That's what Maru does for Deborah, and that's what Deborah accepts in the end. Even after loving fighting, and even after wanting to see everything through to the end against Maharaga, Deborah says, "I don't need to finish this fight. You've given me everything I needed, and protecting my sister is what's most important." That's what being a warrior fucking means. Deborah understands what being a warrior means, just like Maru also now understands what being a warrior means. It doesn't mean throwing your fucking life away for no fucking reason. Tsurugi killing Maru would have been for no fucking reason. Tsurugi never would have saved Yuka. Tsurugi never would have saved Yuka. Tsurugi winning that fight would not have saved Yuka. Deborah, Maharaga, one of those people winning that fight would not have saved Earth. Yuji coming in and fighting Deborah, saving Yuka, and that wouldn't have solved anything. Because again, what's most fucking important always is no more fighting. Who gives a fuck about all of that baggage? Who gives a fuck about sunken cost? When ultimately, if we're fighting for peace, if we can just have it, shouldn't we just take it? So I think that's also a lot of people's issues, and primarily I think it is a very big fucking issue with curse energy being eliminated as a whole. I think it's why people don't like curse energy being eliminated as a whole, because it means no more fighting. It means no more agenda pushing. It means potentially no Jujutsu Kaisen sequel where we can have more fights, more aura, more hype moments. Even though we're complaining that that's all Gege writes. We want the aura, hype moments and everything like that, just the aura and hype moments that we want, not what Gege gives us. And also, we want it over the piece of the characters. We want that over the piece of the characters. So I leave you with this as the finale of everything, in my honest opinion. If you don't like this ending, that's fine. But I think saying it's rushed, I think saying it's bad writing, I think calling Maru's harmony a plot device, and that's why the writing is bad. I think saying that this ending came out of nowhere. I think saying that these characters were wasted or done dirty. I think that saying that the Maharaga Deborah were off screen. I think it's Itadori Yuji 2086. I'm sorry. I might have got the year wrong. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. Yuji's enlightenment is one of the truest things. And he is truly the embodiment of Modulo as a whole. Yuji not stepping in to interfere with the next generation. Yuji doing the bare minimum to ensure that everything is okay. Yuji telling Iori that the strength of the generation does not fucking matter. Wanting all of those perfect endings, wanting all of those theories taken care of, none of that matters in the face of peace. None of that matters in the face of ending conflict, in the face of harmony. Harmony was always the end goal of Modulo. And personally, I feel like everything that we've done to get here was not only set up concretely, had so much extra work put into it to make sure that it was fully fleshed out, to the point that you have almost every opposite side of the equation taken into account, right? This is a culmination of everything. Mainline Jujutsu Kaisen, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, all of the characters that were taking place in not just Modulo, but also the previous generations. I think with everything that I've said today in this long rant, this legendary rant of rants, say what you will, but I think that Modulo's writing, everything it's done for its characters, everything that it has done to fully flesh its lore out, fully flesh its world out, make sure that every opposite side is taken care of and given a voice, whether that be politically, whether that be power-wise, whether that be even towards the ending of the series itself. So much writing and care and passion went into crafting this 25 chapter series that's Modulo. We still have 2 chapters left, I believe. But I think, like I said before at the very beginning of this, despite my triggered moments, I think you cannot like the story of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. But I think outside of everything that we get, you cannot say it's bad writing. You can't say it's rushed. You can't say Gege doesn't know how to close. You can't say Gege doesn't know how to do this, that, or, you know, he wastes his characters, or he didn't know what to do, he wrote himself into a corner, he's all fights, all of this criticism, all of this discourse, it's all fake, it's all fugazi, it's all nonsense, it's all bullshit. All of it is just speak and buzzword for people's words to say, I don't like this. And that's fine. You don't have to like it. But with how much went into everything of this story, you can see how Gege really did his best to polish every facet of it. And I think if you're able to notice and appreciate that, you should be able to, at the very least, understand, even if it's writing you don't like, it's good fucking writing. Great fucking writing. Whether you like the ending or not, it doesn't fucking matter. Words of Itadori Yuji. And that's it. That's all she wrote. That's my TED Talk. So we've been going for about like 2 hours now. We had some technical difficulties in the middle of stream, but I think as a whole, I don't agree with the discourse. I hope I made my points clear and concise. I hope I didn't scare anyone off or appear mean. I told you guys from the beginning I was going to be mean this stream. So I do apologize if I personally victimized anyone today. But I'm fed up. I've had it. As a creator, Jujutsu Kaisen is not a fun series to cover for me, especially when we are in just ridiculous discourse like this, because normally I'm on the opposite side of it. And I know people are going to call me a gay glazer. I know people are going to say I'm coping, but at the end of the day, I think if all you have to offer in the grand scheme of discussion is, yeah, it's just bad writing. Yeah, it's just bad writing. You can concretely, effectively lay out every single reason why it makes sense and why it works out and why it was set up. But no, it's just bad writing. I'm never gonna understand your opinion because you're not doing a very good job of laying it out for me. So yeah, I wait for your PowerPoint presentation. The ball is in your goddamn court now, Modulo ending haters. I'm just kidding, guys. I love you. Thank you for everyone that stayed for this long ass presentation. But I think it's also important to note that this is not an issue with just Shonen. It's an issue with everyday media. It's an issue with everything as a whole. It's permeated into everything. I think we need to stop acting like, oh, Modulo discourse is awful because we have leaks. You know, Jujutsu Kaisen discourse is awful because it was leaked all to hell. This is such an issue with Shonen. No. Everything sucks, guys. It's an issue with everything. This happens with fucking Jujutsu Kaisen all the way to Stranger Things out in popular discourse. This is a problem with everyday life, with everyday people. We are incapable as a people of accepting being wrong anymore, I think, as a whole. Not even that. I mean, that's a very oversimplification. I've talked about it already in the presentation. I'm not going to repeat myself. But I will say, I think Modulo has proven to every one of us that Gege is a great writer. And if you have come out of this series thinking that Gege is a bad writer, personally, I'm sorry. And I don't know what it is that you do consider good writing. But more power to you. Guys, I haven't eaten anything all day today. I've been yapping and ranting and probably yelling too loud for both my dogs and my girlfriend for the last 2 hours. I'm gonna call it a day, but I will say I'm going to cut this presentation up and probably post it on the main channel, so look out for that. If you missed it and you want to get the whole thing in its grand glory, please I'm gonna cut this up for all of its highlights. If you would like to join the Discord community and continue this conversation, Discord link is in chat. If you would like to join the Discord, and we can talk about this further. Gamer Subs, thank you for sponsoring the stream as always. Link is in the pinned message. You know, use my code NOOP for 10% off your order, or if you're a new customer, get some free samples with my link. Use the code NOOP. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Loud for donating. Thank you to everyone that also donated as well. Thank you to everyone who stuck around and listened to me speak. Hit the like button if you have not already. It really helps the channel and the stream way more than you know. I came out with a video earlier today, a collab with Quirkless Shinobi, so check that out. What if Yuta fought Kenjaku with Yuki instead of Choso? That's going to be on this channel, guys, so check it out if you haven't already. And I will see you guys all on the next stream. Chapter review will probably be out tomorrow or something like that when we get TCB. But yeah, guys, I love you. I appreciate every single one of you guys, whether we agree or disagree. You're all great people. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.